Welcome to Driven, the Unscripted Success podcast, with your hosts, Mike Manino and Nariman Hamden, bringing you insights and stories on achieving personal, professional, and financial success.
Hey guys, I'm Nariman Hamden, and this is Driven Unscripted Success podcast. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. We've got an awesome guest on today. We have Scott Maheu. Scott has been in the marketing space for over 10 years. He is currently the COO at Exhibit Experience, where they focus on continuous improvement, efficiency, and fiscal responsibility, ensuring the company consistently transforms big ideas into show-stopping results through strategic execution and strong team leadership. How's it going, Scott?
Excellent. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. Where are you zooming in from?
I am in Orlando, Florida right now.
The big amusement area.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So why don't you kick things off with giving us a snapshot of what your business is right now, what you do, what your company does.
Sure, absolutely.
All that good stuff.
So currently I work for Exhibit Experience. What we do are exhibits, and we do permanent displays at sporting events, those sorts of things. But the real thing we focus on are conventions, and when companies go to conventions to display new products, branding, those sorts of things. What we do is we like to work with clients, get an idea for what they want to promote, what they're really trying to do at that show, and then work to build them a booth that's going to reflect that. So those booths can be anywhere from 10 by 10 to 50 by 50, depending on what the client's looking for. But really what it's intended to do is highlight them as a brand and draw people into their booth at convention centers. So we are in the business of creating show-stopping things that are going to attract attention. So neon lights, activation, AI, anything that really will engage a company's customers and engage other vendors, that's where we focus our efforts.
That sounds like a lot of fun as well. And I'm sure you could probably most likely get as creative as you want, depending on who the client is and what they're looking for. So I'm assuming you guys can come up with the entire concept as well, or unless you go off of exactly what they want.
Yep, absolutely. So some clients come to us with an already preformed idea. Some clients have already done previous shows. So we are happy to work with them. And what we do is we take their designs and we take their drawings and we kind of adjust them a little bit for things that we think may look a little bit better, may pop a little bit better. And then we have clients who come to us and say, hey, look, I have no idea what I want. This is the space I want to rent. This is the budget I have. And then it's up to us to kind of put the whole thing together. And there's a lot of elements that go into exhibit space, not just the actual building of the booth and the cost of the materials for the booth, but actually getting it there, actually getting it installed, and then actually working with the convention center. All those things and all those services all add up. So that's on us to do that as well for our clients, to assimilate all that information and provide it to them so that we're a one-stop shop for them. They get no surprises after the exhibit is over. Our ultimate goal is at the end of the day, they're happy, they've got a lot of traffic, and no surprises for the show.
That's pretty cool. It reminds me of, my old days. I worked in the auto show circuit. So, I mean, each auto company would have, these extravagant booths or stages. And I mean, they went from basic to just so over the top. You're like, oh my gosh, how did they just do that?
Yeah, so I've done both of those. So
that's awesome.
10 by 10 back that just has a single graphic. And then I've done a back wall, to your point, the auto industry, a back wall that opens up for a car to be able to drive through. So
yes,
there are all of those, just depending on, again, the client, how far they want to take it and what they're really trying to do with their brand and really where they want to go with it.
That's fantastic. So when you think back, are there any moments that you'd say really changed the game for your career?
Absolutely. I think that if I look back, I trained at probably the two best leadership programs in the world, kind of arguably, if I'm biased. The United States Air Force, so the military to me instills, I went in as an officer, so their leadership program is very, very well tailored towards developing, helping people. So it was a good foundational experience for me to develop that there. And then from there, I spent about 6 years working for Amazon, which is the second best leadership school, in my opinion. And just the the things that it teaches you in those two programs have taught me. I formulated from those two experiences, my leadership style is really focused on servant leader combined with situational leadership. The situational leadership comes from the military. It's kind of, we refer to it as S1 through S4. It's you taking an employee or anyone in your organization from beginning to end. So raw, coming right in the door at the beginning. And it starts with directing or telling them what you want them to do and kind of helping them, saying, hey, these are all the parameters of this. This is really what we need to look at. And then you move on to coaching, which is really selling them and kind of helping them understand why and understanding the why behind what you do. And then you move to supporting and eventually to delegating. And that person then becomes a fully functioning person within the workforce, and they're empowered to do their job. They're empowered to do what they want to do. And then that doesn't end there, because then the servant leadership part of my leadership takes over, where I want to have weekly one-on-ones with everyone in this building, or everyone in my building. I want to have a weekly one-on-one just to touch base and see how they're doing. And then I want to have a monthly one-on-one where I really want to find out what their IDP is, what their individual development plan is. What do you want to do? Do you want to work here for the rest of your career? Do you want to work here for 5 years? Do you want to go be a chef in 5 years? What can I help you do? Because I am in very big favor of empowering people to do whatever they want. So if it's here, I do not want to exploit someone, or I don't want to just them to work for me. I want this to be a relationship where we develop them into something they want to do for a career. And a lot of times that leads to very, very good succession planning within my organizations, because people are able to move into another role and be comfortable in that role. Very often in warehousing industries and construction and manufacturing industries, leaders fall into the mistake of pushing their high performers into the next role. Well, when that high performer is not ready for that next role, it puts them in a situation where they're in over their head. You can help them, or even if you really try to go help them, you have to go back to that directing S1 part. And that's not a productive way to have a relationship with an employee. Taking them back, as opposed to where you've already reached the delegating phase, but now you've got them doing something else. And you're like, all right, now we got to go all the way back. It's not a good feeling for them. And it's not that instills that culture that I want to put in a building. So what I want to make sure is that person is 100% ready for that next role when they go into it. Like I said, it's a bad habit that this industry and the manufacturing industry has of pushing people into positions they're not ready for, because then what you end up doing is coaching out your high performers, because they can't do that job because you've not set them up for that. So I am very cognizant of that and very aware of that in my leadership style.
Which is fantastic, because you are correct. A lot of that does happen. And more so where they get pushed in a position that they have no interest in.
Correct.
So there goes their performance, and anything else that, the domino effect from that, with them not liking what they do and just having to do it because they need that paycheck at that point, rather than wanting it and loving what they do and finding what is that person like, what's their skill that they're good at, and then bringing that out of them and honing it. So great way of leading, which leads me to, since you brought up leadership, when you're building your dream team, what's the one trait you always look for and why?
Ownership. I think it's the one thing that it's very difficult to teach. It's something that kind of is pervasive across the board, because if someone all the way down to a carpenter or anyone has ownership in that project and ownership and says, hey, this is my client. I want to do this for them. It's the ownership of the name, and it's the ownership of putting your name on a product and making sure that what is going out is exactly what you want. So that ownership goes a long way. It helps people when we explain the why behind what we do, because a lot of the times when we as leaders direct or we have something that needs to be done, it's not immediately evident to everyone on the team why we're doing that. So it's very important for the ownership piece, because then they start to understand the why, and that leads to buy-in and an understanding and just a greater culture within the organization, where you're not going to a job. You're going to, I'm not going to take it as far as a family, but it is very similar to that, because we care about each other in this building, and we want to make sure, and it's always one of the things I said of it's family first before everything else. Like, we can figure everything else out. Yeah. So that's the big piece for me there, is really focusing on that and creating that culture, and that ownership helps tremendously in doing that, because it not only lends people to contributing more, it helps them take pride in what they're doing, and it gives them a greater sense of self in what they're doing.
Sure, absolutely. So, how do you encourage your team to think outside the box and bring new ideas to the table?
That is actually a demand of mine. It's not an encouragement. I want my team bringing ideas all the time, but I want them bringing problems and solutions. So bring me the problem and say, this is what we're facing with, and then tell me what your solution is. And then we work through it. So that's part of progressing through that directing, coaching, supporting, delegating. Is in the beginning, some of these ideas come through. You're like, okay, but if we do this, this may happen down the line. And helping that person understand why their suggestion was or was not in the ballpark of what we want to do. So then you start to teach the people that work for you, that you work with, how you want to think as a company. And then they start to take those ideas. And in the end, when we get to that delegating phase, they don't even have to come to me with that problem. I have empowered them to solve that problem because they've shown me repeatedly they bring solutions and they are willing to go out and do what it takes to get done. It's very important in this industry because a lot of the times when we get drawings and we get production plans, they're not always complete. So there's going to be some
Sure.
and there's going to be some needs, and there's going to be people who have to take over, and higher level people in leadership roles can't always be there. So everyone needs to be able to contribute on that standpoint. So like I said, for me, that's not it's not an encouragement. It's one of those things that I kind of demand, and everyone responds well to it because, again, they're bringing those ideas and they start to feel that buy-in and they start to feel the culture and the ownership.
Sure.
All those.
And then they see their ideas and their thought, what they created it in their mind and on a piece of paper come to life. I mean, how cool is that?
That is a
And
very rewarding part of ours. And
yeah,
we do booths and we do tangible objects, and you can tangibly see the success. Back when I worked for Amazon, you couldn't tangibly see that success. You were relying on the delivery on time, and you understood the customer, if they got their package on time, was going to be happy, but you didn't really see that. Here, we get to see that firsthand, the customer or the client's excitement. So we're on show floor building if it's in Orlando. So I get to meet the clients and I get to talk with them and kind of see, hey, this is how this booth went here. What do you want to do next time? So it's extremely rewarding in that sense.
sure. So when you're building, I'm sorry, just ask you this question. What's a skill or habit you think doesn't get enough credit for contributing to your success?
A skill or habit, I'd say, is probably the problem solving and really learning from past mistakes and looking at ways to solve the problem in a way that your building is asking you to solve it. As leaders, we can often fall in the trap of saying, like, hey, we've gotten to this point. We are the end all. We know it. We know how to do this. We've done this before. It's happened. But what we don't understand is all of the things that are happening in the building, and we aren't out there at all times. So a perfect example of this is, again, from the Amazon style. I'm very focused on organization. It's called 5S. Everything has its place. Everything has a taped off area with a label for where it needs to go. So your travel time, your work time is improved, because another thing as leaders, I think our number one thing, in addition to being a servant leader, is removing barriers. That's our number one objective.
Sure.
So as part of that, when we work down that, then we need to make sure that we are engaging everyone inside of the building and working through those pieces and kind of helping them along the lines and really, like I said, force magnifying what our associates in the building are able to do.
Right. So I always love asking this question. What's a day in your life look like, and how do you juggle work and everything else?
Sure. Day in my life, get up in the morning, head to work. My wife usually gets up, gets my daughter to school, because I'm usually out of the building by then to get in here. We typically start in here around 7 a.m. and we'll go till 3, mostly because we're in a temperature controlled, non-air conditioned environment in Orlando, Florida. So we have dock doors that we raise up. So we try to adjust the schedule to those individuals and the temperature fluctuations in Orlando.
Sure.
We like to go early and get out early. So typically I'll get into the office and I'll look at all the projects we have going on during the week. So all the booths in progress. I typically have 4 to 5 booths in progress at any time in the building being built. I also have anywhere from 4 to 5 booths traveling, being installed in different locations. And then we have 5 booths in the wing getting ready for the next week when these current jobs are out. So typically my day is I come in and I organize and I look at all of the jobs and make sure everything is there. We have all raw materials. We're all good. Everything's planned, and that I've removed all barriers for my team to be able to execute on it. And then once I did get through all the paperwork there, I'll go out on the into the warehouse floor and kind of talk with everybody and say, hey, where are we at? What are you guys looking at? You guys have any problems? I like to hear, and this is something I also learned from Amazon. We used to do a weekly thing called a Gemba walk. So we walk, it's a Japanese term designed to, you walk different areas of your building, and each time you do it, you focus on one area and you talk with someone working in that area. And you get an idea for what's going wrong, and kind of leading back to your previous question about learning different things and learning different ways to adapt and mold leaderships and talking through that 5S style. Sometimes I'll put a trash can somewhere. I'll say, hey, I know I'm the end all be all. I know where this needs to go. This trash can goes right here. Well, I come in the next day and that trash can's on the other side of the desk. So I move it back. So then it moves again. That tells me as a leader, I am misreading the situation. So something is not right. My employees and my associates are moving that for a reason. So it's up to us as leaders to recognize that and put those things in the right place, remove those barriers so that our associates can execute to their fullest. Because it does us no good to try to develop people and to try to develop employees if we're not getting out of their way and we're basically allowing obstacles to stand in front of that they have no control over. Like, we have a purchasing department. My guys in the back are not responsible for a purchasing department, or not responsible for purchasing. But if that material doesn't come in, a lot of people look to them and say, hey, you guys missed because you guys couldn't get this booth done on the Thursday when we needed to ship it that day. Well, in reality, you've got to look at the barriers that I was not able to remove as a leader. And then I have to take me and figure out how that doesn't happen the next time.
Sure. Totally understand that. So has there been a book, a podcast, or someone that's really changed your outlook or approach?
I'd say a person. I'd say definitely with Amazon. I had a couple different mentors there. I'd go all the way back to when I worked for Sunny Delight. I was in the finance department at Sunny Delight. Tim Volkerding, he's now I believe he's the CFO of Harvest Hill in Connecticut. Was an extremely powerful mentor to me. Taught me a lot of things about business. I respected him. And he really showed me a lot about the finances and how to empower people and how to empower your employees and your associates. Not just get a product done or not just get something out the door, but make everyone who took part in getting that out the door better at the end of it. And I'd say just his teachings have stuck with me ever since. And that was a long time ago. And I remember a lot of the things that we talked about very, very clearly.
That's fantastic. And I always love how when I hear that it's a specific person that has affected you, really got through to you. I mean, for years and years to come, just how impactful that is. Absolutely. And then, you leading the way or sharing his methods and implementing them in your, the way that you lead, kind of making a combination of it and then executing it with your employees. And again, 1 or 2 or 10 of them are going to have you as the story that they're going to tell one day of, what, Scott actually was very impactful to me. The CEO of this company when I worked there once upon a time. So it's neat how good people affect each person and how that domino affects how it's just so neat, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's the business world. I mean, in the personal world, I can also say my wife has been a major influence. My wife is currently the CEO of a international trade association. And she has taught me a lot about, so as I said, I lean on my leadership with Amazon and the military. When I was with Amazon and obviously with the military, it's a very direct style of leadership. It's a very, I will say in a sense, there's a bit of unfeeling leadership to it. And there's a bit of execution and those sorts of things. And she has been someone who has taught me to pull away from that and to understand the person and to help the person and help develop the person. That's obviously helped me with my business side, as well as in the past, I was a high school lacrosse coach. that was huge. And those things have been hugely rewarding for me. And she is very influential in teaching me to understand how people respond to my approach to situations. So again, when I first started with Amazon, I was very direct. I got the job done and I was very good at it, but not a lot of people wanted not a lot of people wanted to work with me.
Sure.
Well, they did, only in the sense that they saw the success, but I didn't want to be part of an organization where everybody wants to be part of it because we're successful. I want to be part of it because we're successful and everyone enjoys being there.
Sure.
She's been extremely influential in that, because I think she has a very extensive experience in that. So she's helped out tremendously. And I would be very remiss if I did not mention that.
That's fantastic. And I guess, what's that old saying? Behind every good man, there's a great lady.
Yeah, and I would not even put myself in the same category. She's something else.
So let me ask you, if you had one bit of advice for someone wanting to follow in your footsteps, what would that be?
Renaissance person. Learn everything, go different places, find different things, find different areas. That's where I've formulated my career. If you look back through my career, I've done executive level finance, I've done executive level operations, and now I'm doing more executive level type marketing stuff. So get those different experiences and start to mold them together. I go back to my major in college was military history. All that is just teaching you how to assimilate massive amounts of data into one cohesive story. Well, that's what you need to do with your career. You need to look at things. Don't get focused in on one specific industry, because then you start solving things just related to that industry. Bring things from outside industries. Go research different industries. Look at how different industries solve different problems and see what you can absorb and adapt to yours. And I think that's been the foundation of my career, because I've kind of gone all over the place.
Sure.
Said finance, operations, fulfillment, marketing, military. I've been all over the place. So it's one of those things. If you collect those experiences and are able to learn from them and figure out how to adapt those other experiences into your current, you will be much better off for it.
That's great advice. So, I'm sure there's a lot of competition in your space. What sets you apart, and what comes easy to you and others that find challenging?
Quality is the biggest thing for me, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's a 50 by 50, if it's a 10 by 10, it has to go out exactly as if we were receiving it, or if we were displaying how we would want to see it. So to me, quality is the number one thing that drives everything else, because again, if you're delivering that quality product, you can figure everything else out. Outside of that, clients go away. Again, with that competitive, it is kind of like a transient in that you can find yourself chasing a commodity. You can find yourself racing to the bottom line, to the lowest dollar amount, but you've got to figure out a way to provide something different. And where we're at as an industry right now is providing different experiences and different displays and attractions. I think where we need to go in our next step is looking at that ROI and helping clients understand exactly the tangible results they're getting back. And whether that be in the form of number of visit counts, impressions, there's different technologies that you can do to read people's facial expressions when they go to a booth, if they're happy, sad. All these things, taking it to that next level and saying, hey, these are tangible results for you that you're going to see. You're going to see a return of $200,000 on this $40,000 booth. So that's, I think that's where we need to go next.
Sure. I mean, those are massive returns. So how do you not listen to the advice and the technology that just generated all that by just seeing their expression of how the booth affected them the first time they looked up at it?
100%. And I think that's on us, and the onus is on us to do that, because we were an industry that was crushed by COVID, obviously. Like, not allowing anyone to go to convention centers, those sorts of things. So if you look at the way that the history of this went over the last few years, exhibits were going through the roof going into COVID, and then brick wall, everything stops, everything shuts down. So you have companies with these marketing budgets for conventions and those sorts of things, and they're hammering, and now all of a sudden you've got a year where that backs up and you're not going to spend that money. Well, what happened is, if you look at the following year after COVID, everyone dumped about 50% of that prior year's budget into that year and went way overboard. So they were spending 150% of their annual budget, and they didn't really see the returns from it. So now we're starting to see the reduction in budgets and saying like, okay, wait a minute, let's rethink this. Because again, I think in the past in the event space, a lot of people just went to a convention because it was something they were supposed to do. And
Right.
after that big influx of budget, everybody said, whoa, hold on a minute here. There's something more to this. So now the onus falls back on us of giving them the why of why they want to promote and why they want to exhibit.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, it sounds like things are going very well for you and your business. And I'm wondering, as you're looking towards the future, have you ever invested in passive income? And what's a source of passive income that you've invested in?
Have not. I've been solely focused in this area and solely focused on that. It's one of the things that I'm actually looking at right now, and maybe not even in the passive income state, but potentially looking at kind of starting something up and kind of really kind of pushing that, using that leadership and doing that. So it's something that I've looked at. But in terms of the passive income, no. Unfortunately, it's one of those things, and just kind of like that military, it's very, very focused in and kind of like, hey, fix this. And I think coming to exhibit experience, there's a lot of things that I need to do to transform this building back into what I was able to do at Rockway. And we're in the midst of doing that. And like I said, I'm 3 months here. We probably have a good 3 more months before we're really humming. But then at that time, I mean, looking at next year, I'm going to probably look at buying a third warehouse or kind of moving up and expanding those operations.
That's fantastic. So as we're wrapping up the interview, what incentives or exciting plans do you have in the works for the next 6 to 12 months? What do you got going on?
Organization. That's a huge one, especially for warehouses. So again, having only been here 2 months, the building is not like I want to see it. It's not completely organized. So in the next 3 months, the exhibits tend to kind of die down towards the end of the year because everybody's kind of looking towards next year's budgets. Nobody's going to want to travel during the Christmas time periods. Everybody likes coming to Florida in the summers. So we start to see a little bit downshift in volume. So the next 6 months are going to be heavily focused on organization, creating standard work documents so that everyone understands and knows. I think that's extremely important to succession planning. So it's really just about getting comfortable in our skin right now. And then next year, really starting to push the envelope on growing, because I'm a big proponent in kind of scaling back down to where you kind of perfect the animal before you start to feed the animal. And it's one of those things you want to make sure that you don't have something out of whack and then start trying to scale it, because it could get very, very tough very quick. And it's not just you that's going to feel the pain. It's everyone in the organization. And that's not fair to others, given that it was something that you decided.
Sure. Absolutely. And I think there's a massive convention that comes, I think it's in Orlando in January. It's the big podcast convention.
Yep.
So
I've already got a couple shows set up for that. The other big ones we have some pet shows in the summer. They're huge in Orlando. So got those to kind of look forward to next year as we kind of get moving next year.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, I appreciate you coming on and taking the time to share what you're doing and how you got to where you are. If someone wanted to get a hold of you or needed your services, how does one get a hold of you?
Email Scott, SCOTT @exhibitexperience.com, or they can call me on my personal phone. My phone, I'm available all the time. So 513-389-6625. If they're interested in a booth or interested in what we can do for them, again, we do booths, we do activations for sporting events. So, hey, give me a call, and if I can't do it, I can probably find somebody who can do it for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for coming on, and thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to Driven, the Unscripted Success Podcast. Want to share your story? Apply to be a guest at drivensuccesspodcast.com/guest.